That's how we get the thumbnails. All right, welcome back to another episode of Path of Purpose. Today I have a special guest. I'm here with my sister, Kate Tifford. Kate, thank you for coming on the pod.
Thank you. Took long enough to get me on here.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So for the audience listening, she just graduated from college at the University of Wisconsin, and she's currently residing in the Los Angeles area. Yeah,
Hmm.
and I tell her to come to Austin, but she chooses to stay in LA, even though everyone from LA is coming here. So,
Yep.
anyways, Kate, could you tell the audience a little bit more about what's going on in your life, where you are?
Yeah. I graduated from the University of Wisconsin-Madison with a BA in psychology because I kind of didn't know what I wanted to do coming into school. And I feel like I had a position in my sorority as PR chair, and that kind of helped me realize that I do want to go into marketing along with other various internships that I've had in the marketing space. And I have always wanted to move to California ever since fifth grade when mom took me here for the first time. She had a business trip, and I begged her to let me come. And ever since then, I wanted to move here, and I felt like what better time to do it than right out of college. So I moved here at the end of May, and I've been applying to jobs to do social media marketing, influencer marketing, ideally in the beauty space, but I have been looking outside of that as well.
Hmm. So if you're hearing this and you have any connects, let us know. Has LA lived up to the hype?
Yeah, I mean, I think I came out here all the time. I had friends, all my like five of my best friends from college, and then one of my best friends from high school lived here. So I kind of would come here for weeks at a time and stay with them. So I feel like I had an idea of what I was getting myself into, but obviously up and moving your entire life is different than coming for 3 weeks. And, none of our family being here, like a lot of my friends are now working. So it's definitely been a change to like do things on my own and really
Mm.
be independent and be like, this is my life now. But I've enjoyed it
What is
thus
it?
far.
What has it been like to be, or what has it been like to be on your own?
I think I have improved on becoming more independent, but like in college, when you like freshman year, you get put in with roommates and you're doing everything with your roommates, whether it's like going to get coffee or going to get lunch, you're really not doing those things on your own. And I feel like throughout college, I've tried to get better at that because I know that life after college, like that's not a possibility to live your life like that. So I think just doing things out of my comfort zone, like going to workout classes by myself, was something that I never did until I got here. And so to be able to make yourself uncomfortable with doing things by yourself.
Mm.
Mm.
How did you become comfortable with getting outside of your comfort zone?
I still don't think I am. But I feel like just knowing that like sitting on my couch and doing things and just like not doing anything is wasting my life a little bit. Not that I ever did that to an extent, but there were definitely days in college where I like my friends were like all doing stuff and I was on my own and just like maybe I needed to run to CVS and go do something, but I kind of just was like whatever. But I feel like now having that mindset, like that's the only way you're gonna get things in life and meet new people and make connections.
Mm.
I feel like I've seen that throughout the job search that like I'm just even having networking calls and I'm so like even now I still get like anxious before it because I'm so nervous, but I feel like after each one I get more comfortable going into the next.
Mm. What do you think allowed you to develop that perspective of needing to take initiative?
What do you mean?
Let me rephrase.
Thank you.
What do you think that there was a specific event in your life that
Yeah.
do you think that there was a specific event in your life that made you more proactive in getting things done.
Yeah, I mean, I think when dad was sick, I really realized, I think one of the main things I learned from that was that like life's too short. And I mean, there's multiple aspects of that, but one aspect being that like life's too short. You need to say yes to more opportunities and do more things because it's like you never know what's going to happen. And I want to at least, like, I think the biggest thing, like, with mom and dad was always that, like, they lived a fulfilled life and they were so proud of everything that they had accomplished that I was like, at the end of the day, that kind of eases the feelings of what's going on around you. And I feel like that was something that I wanted to be able to say and be like,
Mm.
and I feel like I even have. I feel like there's so many things I've done that most 22-year-olds haven't done at this, or even people older haven't done at that point in their life. And to be able to just talk to cool people, meet cool people, and do cool things.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about this too because I feel like we haven't really talked about
Mm-hmm.
it in like this much depth before of
Mm-hmm.
the situation with losing dad. But what was it like to be in college when dad was sick?
I think it was really hard for me because I knew that that's what I needed. I knew that I needed to be around my friends and have a support system, but at the same time, it was like almost guilt because I was like, are there things that I should be there for? Like, I don't know how much time I'm going to have, and I want to be there for as many of those moments, even if it's just something as simple as sitting in a hospital room. And I think I really found a balance where I was still staying at school, but I was coming home every, like,
Mm,
honestly, I think I came home once a month at least. And also that transparency to mom and dad that I was like, I want, like, I'm old enough for you to keep me in the loop, and I don't want you to shield things from me because I will not forgive myself if I'm not there for those moments.
yeah.
And like, call me. And if you need me to get on a plane and come home, I will do that. But like, in the meantime, being at school and having that kind of distraction was something that really helped me.
Yeah, I feel like the transparency, not only the transparency, but also like the open communication between mom and dad of telling
Mm-hmm.
us like when it's like, okay, like we're there,
Yeah.
like we need you here. Like I
Mm-hmm.
felt like that was also really, I feel like that took a lot of pressure off me as well. And I felt like that allowed me to kind of live some of my life at school too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What was it like to be at college knowing that dad was dying? Like what was
I
it
know.
like
I
in
think I think the whole time I felt guilty. I was like, I'm doing, and even when I went on, like, there were points where, like, over the summers where I'd like go on trips with my friends, and the whole time I was just like internally like, is this so fucked up that I'm going out and I'm enjoying my life when he's like sitting in a hospital room and mom's sitting there taking care of him? And it's something I went back and forth with for so long, having discussions about it with my friends, with mom, like with my therapist, being like, and then really coming to terms with the fact that like dad wanted me to do that. Like, he wanted us to go out
yeah.
and enjoy our lives so that, like I said, if we were put in that position, we wouldn't be like, wow, I missed out on so much
Mm,
opportunities.
yeah. Yeah, I agree. How did your relationship with dad develop during his dying process?
I think, well, I think the fact that we had heard that he, like, you and I were so young when he was diagnosed the first time and he was really sick. And I think that was something that, like, was always in the back of my mind where I was like, okay, I know my middle name's Hope and I know that it's named for this reason because he was sick and they were hoping that, like, everything would be okay and he would be okay. But I feel like so I always had that in the back of my mind. Then hearing again when he was re diagnosed the second time, and I was kind of just like, I don't know, it makes you more grateful. And
Mm,
I feel like I lived the 19 years before he was diagnosed the second time, knowing that like life's precious and like he almost wasn't here, and to take grant and to not take that relationship for granted. But I think
mm,
even more again the second time to like really be a part of it and be like, okay, like we might only have a month, and to just like really not take life for granted and to be as
yeah.
close as you can and do all the things together. Like, there were times, like, I remember like he started wanting to go on walks like after he was diagnosed, and this was something that probably growing up I would have been like, you know what, like, I'm not going for a walk right now, I don't want to do it. But then it's like, you put in that perspective and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this because I'm spending time with you and I'm doing things that make you happy.
Yeah. 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 I feel like your perspective prior to him getting sick was almost more mature than mine in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Because I feel like for me, I feel like it almost took him getting sick a second time for me to really prioritize my relationship with him.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like on one hand, like I feel like someone could look at that and say like, oh, it's such a shame, like that's what it took. But like honestly, like looking at it, and like I said this at his memorial, like to me, I feel like that was that was almost a catalyst that allowed us to get
Mm-hmm.
closer than I ever felt with him, and like to improve our relationship too. Like I feel like your relationship with him was different as just being a different person, but also being his daughter too, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And like for me, like I felt like like prior to that, like I feel like he was definitely a lot more of a like a discipline figure, especially like
Mm-hmm.
I was like getting into the teenage years. So
Mm-hmm.
I felt like having him like that second time around of him being sick, I felt like it was really a beautiful way for us to also like work on our relationship together.
Mm-hmm.
What is your like observations of that? Do you feel like you saw that, or do you feel like you were uh more so focused on your relationship with him at the time?
I mean, I feel like when you're in that, I just feel like the whole time he was sick, like even mom says, like I'll say something that were so like about something that happened that wasn't even relating to her, and she was like, honestly, I was kind of just in like cruise control, and it's like that's really the only thing you're focused on, and I think that's how it was for me. I think you're so wrapped up in how the situation is making you feel as an
Mm,
individual that you're not. And this was something that was so hard for me, like even at his memorial, and I'm like, this is how I feel about it, but then I like take a step back and I'm like, this is impacting so many more people than just his immediate family and like
yeah.
than just, and I'm like, imagine how like grandma feels or like his friends feel. Like I can't imagine how I would feel losing like one of my best friends. Like,
Yeah.
and I just felt like it wasn't something I really thought about. I was like, okay, this is how it's affecting me as a person, and
Mm,
I'm gonna focus on bettering our relationship that you honestly don't really think about the wider
yeah.
spectrum.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I feel like that's really interesting. I felt like almost like at his memorial, sometimes I felt like I found myself even being like frustrated sometimes when like
Mm-hmm.
someone else like came up to me and was like almost like saying words to like try to make me feel better, but it just felt like I was like, you don't understand.
Yes, and I agree with that. And I think there's ways that people, like, there were so many things that frustrated me when someone would be like, first of all, like, I know what you're going through because it's not. And every single person has a different relationship to dad. So it's like,
Yeah.
obviously, that's going to impact them differently. I think there was just like a way of going about it where, like, now when people text me on like his birthday or his anniversary, like Aunt Jen and Grandma, and I'm like, I responded in a way that's like, thank you so much. I'm also thinking of you too.
Yeah.
In a way that's like just understanding that like I know this has affected you, but I like you said, I think there is that frustration of the way people phrase things or the way people say things. Like someone that like obviously it's gonna impact people in his life, but there were people that like I had never even heard of and like now you're here and I get it in a way that's like not making it about themselves, but inserting them into the situation where it's like they are just as of utmost importance. And I think there's that like balance.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I think it's like especially hard to see through that and to have perspective on that, like when you're feeling the grief and feeling all those emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Because like for me, like I was wound up, and like if someone said the wrong thing to me, I would just get angry like right away.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So then, what was like? How did you feel like at the at the memorial, like after the fact?
Honestly, I feel like I don't even, I don't know. Like I had four of like I think it was four of my best friends there with me, and I feel like that two of them that had also lost their dads, and I feel like that I don't know. I feel like I distracted myself for so long, and I even feel like there I wasn't like
Mm,
I don't think I like, and even now I don't think I fully have wrapped my head around it, and I feel like you're literally gonna be I told you so because in the beginning like there were so many things that just like probably would have helped me do that, but in I always and I talk about this all the time. I'm like, in that moment, like I can't even be mad at myself for doing that because it worked for me in that moment and it got me
yeah,
through that moment. And like a lot of other people like probably would have reacted differently or
yeah,
would have let it get the best of them. And so I try not to be hard on myself in the fact that I'm like, I might have distracted myself for a year, but like
yeah.
if that's what got me to where I am today and to be able to reflect on it later,
Mm,
then that's something I can't really be upset about.
yeah, I feel the exact same way. And like for me, it was different things. Like for you, I know what you're referring to, but for me, it was more so like one, like not talking to anybody about how I felt. Like
Mm-hmm.
even like my closest friends at the time, like I wouldn't be vulnerable with them and I wouldn't
Mm-hmm.
really open up to somebody about how I felt.
Mm-hmm.
And also another thing um that I was distracting myself with was also like in the beginning part of it, like going out. And like, yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
was in college, I was a junior in college and I was in a fraternity, so like going out and partying. But that was also something like very quickly that I realized that like I need to stop. Cause
Mm-hmm.
like I can't in my right mind like go out and do this and like also like try to heal from what's going on. And so then that leads me to my next question of how do you feel that this experience has shifted you into the person who you are today?
Good question. I think I say this all the time, and I feel like I was able to find a glimmer of light in it, and the fact that I feel like I changed as a person, like for the better, and I feel like it sucks, like you said earlier, that it had to take something like that to like get me to that point. But I also think about all the lessons I've learned and how I've matured and grown up, and I feel like as kids, like I don't know, I always felt this responsibility to like have to kind of step up sometimes and like be there for mom when like I honest like I didn't always have to do that and I felt like I felt more responsibility than like
Mm,
what I was 19, 20 should have had, and I
yeah,
was trying to be there for everyone and be this person where it's like I didn't have to do that because it was okay for people to do that for me.
yeah,
And I feel like this was something that I was really bad at doing when he's sick. I remember I was crying in the hospital every single time, and I'd like have to go sit in the stairs because I didn't want dad to see me like that. And I feel like when he actually passed, then it like snapped into me, and I was like, I can't do that anymore. I can't be someone that's just gonna like sit here and bawl. Like I needed to do something and be there for other people as well.
mm,
But yeah, I feel like I've learned a lot from that, and I feel like had I not gone through that, I probably wouldn't have learned all of that.
wow, yeah. That sounds exhausting to have to
Mm-hmm.
be that person.
I know, and it goes back like dates. Like that was something that still is so important to me, and it's like it's frustrating because it's almost like it sounds so silly, and I'm not even intentionally or consciously putting pressure on that, but like for some reason that's just something that's like important to me, and I feel the need to honor him in a way that's loud, um, and just like be with certain people and do certain traditions, and I feel like that's it's almost frustrating sometimes because it's like I was going home for almost every holiday, every year anniversary, like his birthday. Like there are very I think there's maybe one birthday and like one anniversary that I might have missed since because like I had like plans like really far in advance. Like I missed his birthday the first year because I was on spring break. And I feel like I was so hard on myself, but then I feel like I learned and I'm like like even Father's Day this year, like I was by myself. I had just moved here. Mom had just moved me in, and I put so much pressure on that day to be like, what am I gonna do today?
Hmm.
And I kind of was selfish a little bit, and like I did things that I love to do, and that would just help get me through the day.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. I feel similar to what you said about responsibility.
Hmm.
And my experience of when dad was sick was very it like that word like really sticks to me.
Hmm.
And I remember when on his birthday, you were talking about the birthday that
It was
we
the
were in
first
Florida
birthday.
when he
No,
was
no, no. That's when he told us he was sick. But
okay.
the next year was the first birthday after he had passed,
Yeah.
and
Oh, I see.
I was on spring break with my friends, or like we
Okay.
were leaving spring break the day of his birthday.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I thought you were referring to the other one, but yeah, that word responsibility sticks out to me,
Well, that one
especially like,
we didn't even know then.
well,
Oh, you meant the
that's
rest of the weekend.
that's when he told me.
Yeah. No,
Eh,
he told us to get. Yeah, that's when they told me too.
Okay, yeah, I had flew in, I
Yeah.
think a day before you, and you
Yeah.
were coming a day after,
Uh-huh.
and so the morning of his actual birthday, I
Mhm.
remember this was in Florida. I went up to like wish him a happy birthday, him,
Mhm.
and to sit down with him and mom. And
Mhm.
I remember like going up, like I had a card in my hand,
Mhm.
and like before I could even say happy birthday, like he sat me down.
Yeah.
He was like, sit down. And like immediately I was like worst thing, worst case scenario. I like original that was like the first thing that I thought.
Really.
And yeah, yeah.
I
Well, he's
hope.
like
And I thought they were getting divorced. I was like, honestly, I'd rather that, but whatever.
yeah, yeah. I guess I had more hope for their marriage than you.
Yeah. Well, if they
Anyway,
got divorced, then he'd still be alive. I go through
yeah,
that whole
yeah,
thing too.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, getting back to this, so they sit me down and they tell me, and like right away just start like bawling my eyes out,
Mhm.
like, and uh, I remember him saying like he had a plan. He's like, this is the mode of action or the action plan that we're gonna take. Like after this trip, I have a appointment at Memorial Sloan Kettering,
Mhm.
and we're gonna do this and do that, and okay, like that sounded good. That was like, okay, well, you have cancer, but at least you're
Yeah.
like on top of things. Like that's
Mhm.
what I thought. And like I remember going back to my hotel room and just like bawling my eyes out for like 20 minutes
Mhm.
straight.
Mhm.
And that word responsibility that you said really stuck out to me because in that moment I remember like literally going on Google and like
Mhm.
typing in Google
How to cure cancer.
no how to deal with losing a parent.
Mhm.
And like so funny that I like Google that
Yeah.
like WikiHow like get a therapist.
ChatGPT, give me a
Yeah,
guideline.
now ChatGPT. WikiHow, the new gen doesn't know about WikiHow.
You did not use WikiHow.
No, I didn't actually. I was making a
Oh my
joke.
God, that would be scary. I was thinking more like BuzzFeed.
Anyway, I came across this YouTube video. Um,
Mhm.
it was of Jordan Peterson. You know who Jordan Peterson is, right?
No.
Okay, he's a psychologist. He's a clinical
Mhm.
psychologist, and he's written like a few like self-help books, and
Mhm.
like one of the greatest intellectual minds of our time. Anyway, he has this YouTube video, and it was one of the ones that came up like when I googled how to deal with losing a loved one. I was like, oh great, a video. I don't have to read.
Oh my God.
And I watched the video, and he says something about how when you're in like a horrible time
Hmm.
and you have no hope, um, to find a little bit of purpose in trying to be strong during this time. And he's like, for instance, if you're losing a loved one, he had mentioned like losing your dad. He's like,
Hmm.
if your dad just died, here's an aim, like be the strongest person at your dad's funeral. Like those
Hmm.
were, I think, the exact words he said. And I felt like from that moment on, like I felt like this huge pressure to like hold it together, to like
Hmm.
try to be the person that was holding it together at the funeral.
Do
Not,
you, sorry, I
I
had a
was just
question.
gonna say, not, I definitely like did not do that. And like for, like tons of times that were leading up to that, I remember like just bawling my eyes out to dad. And like he was the one who was saying like, "Hey, it's gonna be okay."
Hmm.
Like I thought that was like the irony in that of like he's the one who's dying, he's the one who's in pain, yet like he's the one who's consoling me.
Hmm.
And
Do you think that do you agree with that advice of like having to be the strongest person?
um well, the advice was more about finding purpose in a time, in a hopeless time.
Hmm.
So rather than being a victim, right? Because like this, the stage is the reality of this situation is we have a relative that's dying, we have a parent that's dying. Like this is
Hmm.
not something that we can change. And then so where this came in was saying like, hey, you have a choice. Are you gonna feel bad for yourself in the situation that you're in, or are you going to try and make purpose and meaning of the circumstances?
Hmm.
So for me, that was what I needed in order to not ask the question of why me
Hmm.
and why us.
Yeah,
What do you think about that?
I agree, but I also think that I mean, there were definitely times where I agree that dad was the one consoling me, but I think it's such a fine line because it's like he is the one going through it, but we're also children. And it's like,
Mm,
and as strong as we try to be, it's like obviously he's not expecting us, and mom's not expecting us, and no one around us is expecting us to be that strong. And like at moments, yes, like obviously
yeah,
that they're like, you're gonna be okay, and I need you to be strong for dad, but that's also saying that they need us to be strong is not telling us that we can't break down and we can't have those moments where
yeah,
we need someone to console us, even if that consoling is coming from the person who's dealing with it directly.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I feel like I almost took that to the extreme of
Hmm.
like not being vulnerable, like not breaking down.
Hmm.
Like the only times I really broke down was like with dad, and then like in the last moments, like when we were together.
Hmm.
But like and alone.
Hmm.
But I feel like at the same time, it gave me enough of a push to like keep going, you know?
Hmm. Yeah.
We got right into it. Yeah, it's really interesting to hear your perspective of this too, because I feel like we've never really talked about it in this much depth.
Hmm.
And
I also feel like it's something that like I'm someone that needs to talk through how I'm feeling in order to know how I'm feeling, and I think there are a lot of things that I didn't know how I felt until a year later, 2 years later now.
yeah, yeah. Are you saying because of like needing to process it first?
Or just like sometimes I just like I don't know how I'm feeling. Or I know how I'm feeling, but I don't know why I feel that way. I don't know. I feel like I've gotten better. I feel like I'm someone who can easily talk to people and talk to my friends about it. But then I love hearing someone's perspective and being like, well, maybe you feel this way because of this, or just like kind of helping me analyze what I'm feeling and what that means. If that makes sense. Like, I just feel like it was like I didn't talk about it with other people for so long because I didn't know how to put the words together to explain that this is what I felt, or this is in this moment, this is like what this made me feel.
Yeah. Like almost wanting to be certain about it before you talk about it with others.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that that like ties back to your wantingness to like be strong and like hold it together?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it's so weird because I feel like you said, like that whole thing in private, like not even because I'm embarrassed or not because I feel like I needed to be strong, but there was just something about like going through it by myself because I'm like, at the end of the day, you're going through it, mom's going through it, but we all had such a different relationship to dad where it was almost like I was like that whole thing where it's like no one really knows how you feel. And like
Yeah.
even if I can tell you how it affected me, like that's not going to do it justice, and to like be there for yourself and be able to do it on myself, I'm like it's okay that I'm feeling this way and I don't need to know how I'm feeling. This is just like in the moment, this is what I feel.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like and I also think it's so hard, and I talk about this with mom because I'm like, it's so interesting because everyone says that the first, or it was like some quote, and it was like the first year of losing someone is the easiest because it's like you have all that support and you have all these people that are constantly checking in with you, and it's like the second that dies down, it's like obviously it affects people, but people are not like checking in as much. It's not just like a hey, how are you doing? And I think I struggled with that in the beginning because I was willing and open to talk about it with people that asked me about it. And it was something that I was like, I struggled with really reaching out to my friends, being like, hi, I'm sad. Can you talk to me right now? And I think that's something
Yeah.
just in general, and like asking for help can be so hard, or just asking someone to listen. I feel like that's something I've gotten so much better at. But in the beginning, it was like, if someone's not asking me how I'm feeling, I'm not going to seek them out and make an effort to kind of be like, hi, can you talk?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I really empathize with that too. And I feel like I didn't seek anybody out to talk to in the
Mm-hmm.
beginning, and I didn't even want to go to therapy in the beginning.
Yeah, I think that was some. I started therapy right away, and
Yeah.
I still go. And sometimes I don't even talk about it, but I don't know. I love therapy. I think it's so fun. But also, that's having someone. It's like having someone that is like unbiased opinion, doesn't know anything except what you're telling them, which
Yeah.
I kind of like because it's like, and they'll be so brutally honest. Where it's like sometimes there's times where like mom probably should have be like what are you doing, or like you need to do this, and it's like having someone that's literally going to be like you're crazy for thinking that, or be like you should go do this, or don't let this do that.
Yeah.
That was like very broad, but whatever. I think that
Yeah.
was helpful, but I also think that's something that's not easy to ask for. But
Yeah.
the fact that I found that in a therapist helped me then be able to go to my friends and other people and be like,
Mm.
but it's
Yeah.
also not something, therapy is not something like if you're being forced to go do it, you're not going to get out of it what you want.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And it's also not for everyone. Like, that's okay.
Yeah.
What?
How
Ugh.
how does it feel to talk about it now after the fact with me?
I think it's easier because I know, like, I've thought about a lot of these questions and I like know where I feel. like where I stand on certain things. And like, I don't know, it's also interesting to hear other people's perspectives because, like I said, you went through it, and even though we are an immediate family and a tight, close, small family, it's still so drastically different than like from how I experienced it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hearing your perspective now makes me ap- appreciate your resilience and your ability to adapt to uncomfortable environments a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
And
And it really was something I was like, there were even just like friends in my life that I cut out after, like when dad was sick right after he passed, because it was just like, I think, and it's so hard because it's like those hard times really show you like who's going to be there for you. And I think, I mean, I remember I can think of one specific instance of like mom telling us, like one of her friends, when the first time around, and how that like you're never going to be the same with that person. I think that was something that was so uncomfortable, but I was like, at the end of the day, this person, I'm going through the worst time in my life, and this person is not helping
yeah,
and not making me feel better. And I think that's hard, but I'm also like, I forgot what I was going to say. But yeah, just being able to cut that out. And I'm not saying that everyone needs to drop everything and be there for me and do that,
yeah,
because obviously at the end of the day, I respect that everyone has their own life. But to an extent, it's like just so unnecessary. But
yeah. I think it just kind of magnifies that. It
I was just like, if why
magnifies,
am I going to spend my short life surrounding myself by people that like aren't making me feel good about myself or aren't helping me get through the times in your life? Because I feel like that's literally the main
yeah,
reason why I have friends.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It cuts to the deeper levels quicker.
Mm-hmm. True colors shine.
I feel like I wonder if this is the case for you too, because for me, I also found that I got a lot more into doing creative work, specifically music, while having to handle all those emotions that came with dad being
Mm-hmm.
sick and losing him. Do you feel similarly?
About like outlets.
Yeah. Like was there something that like was an outlet for you?
This is something we fought over in the beginning because for me, like I wanted to distract myself because I was like, I couldn't fall asleep at night. So I would go on my phone to fall asleep because it would be the only thing that would like get my mind off that. I literally, like, there was a month where I was falling asleep to playing rap music in AirPods to fall asleep at night. And like, that's like so absurd and insane. Like, literally. And like, Travis Scott is playing in my ears at 11 p.m. But like, that, like, help me like
Yeah.
fall asleep at night. And I'm like, okay, that might not necessarily be deemed a healthy outlet for me to be doing that, but like
Yeah.
if that's what is getting me through this point in time, like I don't care what other people think. I don't care if that's affecting them. And I think my outlet was just like my friends and like doing things that like made me feel good about myself and made
Yeah.
me forget about things in the moment, because I feel like I wasn't ready to come to terms with it.
Yeah. I think also looking back at it now and like some of the things that you distracted yourself with, I had no right to tell you
Mm-hmm.
to
I knew that,
distract
but you
yourself or
also, that
not.
was something you needed to learn on your own.
Yeah.
Because there were definitely things that you were doing that I was like, I don't agree with this, and I think it's hurting you more than it's helping you. But I'm not going
Like
to be the one
what?
to be like when you were eating like raw fucking meat. I'm like, you're literally it's worse for your body than like
Uh,
you put yourself into the hospital because you thought that was helping you live a healthier lifestyle because of everything. And I think dad's cancer being in his esophagus was really connected to diet, and and like how you perceived it. And I think that, but I was like, whatever, and then you got in the hospital and you learned the hard way, and that's just like a slap in your face. And it's like, I can be there and be like, but I'm never gonna like, I don't know. I think
Yeah.
I just wouldn't. If that's what's helping you, then that's helping you. Like you turning on, like I remember when we were in Florida when he told us he was sick, you were like turning all the lights on at 4:30 in the morning to do stretching, and I was like, we're meditating. I'm like, okay, it's helping him. I'm not judging, but it's not something I would do for myself. But that's also, like I said, so okay, because it's like you do what you need to do to get you through that, and every person has that so differently.
Yeah. I think the raw meat was after that though.
Yeah, but I also think it was still like a year, but you at that point, like I'm still, even right now, like learning about ways to express myself about
Yeah.
that. And I think that it's so subconscious sometimes, and like there's things that I do that like I'm not even realizing that it's my way of expressing myself or
Yeah.
expressing how you feel.
Yeah. If you're listening to this, don't eat raw meat.
Or just like that was just like the one main thing. But like I don't know, I remember you being like, you should really journal. That's something that I have to do now.
Yeah.
But it's like time, there's no handbook or right or
Yeah.
wrong way of like going about it.
My
And like what's right for
perspective.
me could be so wrong for you and vice versa. And like that's why
Yeah.
it's never right and wrong. It's just not working for a certain person.
Yeah. And I think that's why like I feel like I had no right to tell you what to do because I was going through it myself and I was just like, all right, this is what's working for me, so I know it's gonna
Yeah.
work for her. And I'm her older brother, so I know what's best for her.
I know. I'm also, you could probably speak on it more, but feel like that responsibility thing where it's like you are like I didn't really have that. It's like someone younger than me where I was like, oh, I kind of need to then
Yeah.
act like that. And also interesting because I mean, like I had mom who was like, I was so close with dad, but at the end of the day, like being the same gender as your parent, like there's different, like you get closer in ways that I'm like, I don't know, it's just like a different like blood connection where it's like mom is a woman, so she understands these things, and like you not then having that for yourself.
What do you mean specifically?
Like I'm just thinking about like how you felt even more responsibility like now that you were like
No.
the only man in the
Yeah,
household,
yeah.
and like and that part, and like
Yeah.
also me being your younger sister, it's like you were older than me, so you felt that responsibility to kind of swoop in and like almost be a parental figure in the fact that you're like, don't do this, it's not helping you. But
Yeah.
it's like it takes time for you to step back and be like,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's okay. That's why we
Yeah.
reflect.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's like definitely like looking back at it, that's how I felt was like
Mm-hmm.
you got to step up and like you got to be the glue here.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's a heavy load to carry,
So
especially
beyond.
as yeah, especially as like a child. Like
Mm-hmm.
I was 19 or 20, but that's a child. Can you see me
Mm-hmm.
still?
No.
Oh shit, someone's calling me. One sec, let me just deny it.
Denied.
I've been getting so many spam calls lately.
Oh, it's
But
because it's the voting.
yes. Oh yes, we'll keep that discussion off of this episode.
Or it's like they're calling me about like car insurance. I'm like, I didn't even own a car.
Mine is like all about taxes.
Yeah.
But
No, mine's like, we're calling you about home insurance. I'm like, I don't own a home. I still can't see you.
one sec, it'll probably go in 30 seconds.
Just
But
deny it.
my camera's being used by my phone.
What?
I have to like go around here. Let me save one sec.
Oh, there we go.
All right. Yeah,
Back to
I
scheduled programming.
going back to that though, I did feel like that a lot. Like that
Hmm.
responsibility and like time to step up. And at first, my way of dealing with the grief was also distracting myself. And
Hmm.
for me, a big way that I was doing that was like just staying busy. And like to the point
Hmm.
where it was like an addiction. Like, do you
Hmm.
remember that whiteboard I had?
No.
I had a whiteboard and like the entire day from like 6 a.m. to like 8 p.m. was sectioned off into like 15-minute increments. And like each day I had it filled out. And
Hmm.
I did that as a way to like stay busy and to like to almost like to not have to feel or think about what
Hmm.
was going on.
Yeah.
And like ultimately that just like wasn't sustainable. And like I
Hmm.
just like between that and like not telling people how I felt, it was just like
Hmm.
it got to the point where I was like so depressed and like not knowing what to do. And honestly, like that was like probably the lowest point of my life.
Hmm.
And
Which is crazy because then it's like that's people see you keeping busy and they're like, oh, you're doing so great with all this. But it's like, that's why I just think
yeah,
every like perspective and even now with social media, like I remember I distracted myself by going on like trips. What he passed on December 19th. Mom and I went to Florida for Christmas because that was like the plan. And then I went to the Bahamas with my friends and I felt it was keeping me distracted, but I also felt guilty because I was like, I'm posting, but no one knows. Like, that's not how I'm feeling. Like,
yeah,
it's just like, and I felt like people would judge me for that, but I'm also like, then I was like, I don't really care. This is what's making me feel good, and this is just like getting me through that moment. And like,
yeah,
that's what it is. And I think that's also something really interesting
yeah,
to think about.
yeah. I think you can't really judge until you're there. And then even if you
Mm-hmm.
are there, it's like you said, the situation's so unique and different.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like going back to your other point of like of people saying, "Oh yeah, you're getting so much done. Oh, you're so strong
Yeah.
for this." It's like that's what it may look like on the external, but at the same time, it's like I feel so alone and
Mm-hmm.
because like I wasn't telling anyone how I felt like
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't seen by anybody.
Mm-hmm. Because it's hard because you want people to ask how you're feeling, but it's sometimes people. I think it's such this is what I say all the time. It's such an uncomfortable subject where it's like people don't know, sometimes don't know what to say or
Yeah.
what to ask, so they just go silent. And I
Hmm.
think that's something very interesting, like that I even like taught my friends, and I was like I have dark humor. I make uncomfortable jokes. I'm not saying that as a way like you I can tell when someone is asking me how I feel or saying something with good intent. And like
Hmm.
sometimes it does come out wrong, but unless I can tell that you are maliciously trying to make me feel that way, then
Yeah.
I'm not going to care and I'd rather you learn how to deal with it. And I think that's also something where it's like if you could just tell the world that it's like don't look at me differently, but like be there for me and you can ask and I'd rather you ask than be silent and not do anything at all.
Yeah. 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 I feel similar too. And I felt like for me, it was about like people listening. And like
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I would feel like people would ask, but like I would start to tell them.
And
And
they wouldn't care. Yeah.
I'm like, what are you even asking? Like, why would I
I
even
think
want to tell you?
And I think it's because it's like people for their own conscious like do that because they're like it's going to make me feel good about myself because they're going to
Yeah.
think I care, but they don't realize that like, people see straight through that in any aspect, whether it's about losing someone or just like life in general. I think disinterest is like something where it's like something could not be more frustrating. Like even I did an interview and I was like I could tell that just like she was asking me questions but wasn't listening to the answer, and I feel like that's just like then it makes you uncomfortable going forward because you're like, if they didn't care and they're not
Yeah.
listening, then what makes me think the next person that asks me is going to listen?
Yeah. 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 I feel like also like that also scared me from sharing more. Because
Hmm.
like I felt like if somebody was asking and I told them and like they weren't really listening, then I would feel like I wasn't actually being seen and I would feel like even more alone and isolated.
Yeah.
So for me, like going
Hmm.
through it, like that was also like one of the biggest fears. And like I think that like that was also like that impacted like my relationship so much. Like I don't think
Hmm.
I did not have like healthy relationships. Like
Hmm.
healthy like relationships with women. Because like I
Hmm.
was so like closed off.
Hmm.
And like how can you be intimate with somebody if you're not sharing how you feel?
Hmm.
Yeah. Oh, I wonder what mom's gonna think when she watches this. Shout out, mom.
Yeah.
Honestly, let's talk about mom. I I am
Jesus.
I am so incredibly grateful for how she held it down during this time. And
Hmm.
like to be able to be with dad in pretty much every single one of those moments to allow us to live our lives.
Hmm.
Like she's a real one for that.
Hmm. I agree, but and I think it's hard for me because like I think about that and I'm like I don't know, my just how their relationship has shaped my perspective on everything, and it's hard because my mind immediately goes to like that's how it should be. Like you are with
Yeah.
your person for life, and like and your vows are like you dedicate your not your entire life obviously, but like a part of you to be there for everything. But I'm like then I think back and I'm like that's so not true. She didn't have to do all that. She didn't have to step down from her job, and like I think it's just a testament to their relationship and just her view on our family.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because there's so many people that wouldn't do that, but then I think about it and I'm in that position and I'm just like, you love that person you're with so much that, like, I feel like my life wouldn't be able to go on with that, like knowing that I'm not doing everything in my power to
Yeah.
make it ease the comfort for them.
Yeah.
But like I said, most people in the world wouldn't do that, and it's not something that's expected. I think just growing up and seeing their relationship, I'm like, it makes sense that she was doing
Yeah. Yeah.
that.
this was this was an awesome episode.
I'm glad. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for thank you for coming on and for sharing your experience of what it was like to go through with losing dad.
Hmm.
I feel like I feel like I learned a lot more about you and I feel like I also have a deeper appreciation for you as well and your
Thank you.
resilience and your grit.
Thank you.
All right, we'll end it here.
What?